You pick up your phone. You didn't decide to. Your hand just moved, like it had its own plan. And by the time the rest of you catches up, your thumb is already swiping. Was there a notification? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, you're checking. Again. Most people call this addiction. They imagine dopamine flooding the brain like a drug every time the screen lights up. But that explanation is too simple. And the real reason is far stranger than a chemical hijack. It starts with a question your brain asks thousands of times a day. A question so fast you never notice it. Is there something new? That question is older than phones, older than television, older than written language itself. For most of human history, the world was unpredictable in ways that could kill you. A rustle in the grass might be wind. It might be a predator. Your ancestors who paused to check, who scanned, who stayed alert to small changes in their environment, survived more often than the ones who didn't. So your brain became a machine built to notice change, not to notice sameness, change. Now think about what a phone is. A phone is an endless stream of small changes. A new message, a new post, a new number on a screen. Every one of those is a tiny signal that says, something in your environment just shifted. And your brain, the same brain built on a savanna 100,000 years ago, responds the exact same way it always has. It pays attention. But here's where it gets stranger. The checking behavior isn't really driven by what you find. It's driven by not knowing what you'll find. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran a series of experiments with pigeons and levers. Some pigeons got a food pellet every single time they pressed the lever. Those pigeons pressed it occasionally, when they were hungry, and then stopped. Simple. But other pigeons were on a different schedule. Sometimes the lever gave food, sometimes it didn't. There was no pattern they could predict. And those pigeons pressed the lever constantly, frantically, even when they weren't hungry, even when nothing was coming. Skinner called this a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it turns out to be one of the most powerful behavioral patterns ever discovered. Predictable rewards create occasional checking. Unpredictable rewards create obsessive checking. Sound familiar? Every time you unlock your phone, you're the pigeon, and the lever is the screen. Sometimes there's a message that makes you smile. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes there's something mildly annoying. You never know which one you're going to get. And that uncertainty is exactly what keeps your thumb moving back to the lock screen, over and over, all day long. But uncertainty alone doesn't fully explain it either. There's a second piece, and it lives deep in a part of your brain most people have never heard of. In the 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfgang Schultz was studying dopamine in monkeys. The old assumption was that dopamine was released when you got a reward. Food, in this case. Pleasure, basically. But Schultz found something unexpected. Dopamine wasn't firing when the monkeys received the reward. It was firing before, when they expected it. And even more interesting, when the reward was uncertain, when the monkeys didn't know if it was coming, the dopamine response was even stronger than when the reward was guaranteed. The brain, it turns out, isn't built to celebrate getting things. It's built to chase the possibility of getting things. This is called a prediction error response, and it's the engine behind almost every habit you have that feels compulsive but isn't technically an addiction. Your brain isn't rewarding you for the notification. It's rewarding you for the moment just before you find out whether there is one. That moment, that tiny window of not knowing. That's the actual hook. There's a third layer too, and this one is less about chemistry and more about a feeling you've had your whole life, probably without naming it. In the 1990s, an economist named George Lowenstein proposed something called the information gap theory of curiosity. The idea is simple. When there's a gap between what you know and what you want to know, that gap itself feels uncomfortable, almost like a tiny itch, and the only way to relieve it is to close the gap. Did someone reply? Did that post get likes? Did anything happen in the group chat since you last looked? You don't actually need the answer to be good. You just need the gap to close. That's why checking your phone can feel satisfying even when the content itself is boring, annoying, or completely irrelevant. The relief isn't coming from what you saw. It's coming from not having to wonder anymore. Now here's the counterintuitive twist. If this were really about addiction in the way people use that word, you'd expect the pull to be strongest with content you love, your favorite creators, messages from people you're closest to. But studies on phone checking behavior consistently find something odd. A huge percentage of checks happen with no specific goal at all. People open their phones, look at the home screen, and lock them again within seconds. No message read, no app opened, nothing consumed. That's not addiction to content. There's no content involved. That's a reflex, a habit loop firing on its own, completely detached from any actual reward. Which means the thing you've been calling a bad habit isn't really about willpower at all. Willpower is for resisting things you want, but you can't resist a reflex you don't notice happening in the first place. And there's a reason this particular reflex got so strong, so fast, in such a short amount of time. Casinos figured this out decades before smartphones existed. Slot machines aren't designed around big jackpots. They're designed around near misses. 2 cherries and almost a third, a spin that almost paid out. Researchers studying gambling behavior found that near misses activate the same reward circuitry as actual wins, sometimes even more strongly, because they keep the brain locked in that anticipation state. Spin again, just one more. Now look at your phone again. A red notification dot with no number, a message preview that's cut off mid-sentence, an app icon that just changed slightly. None of these are rewards. All of them are near misses, dressed up as information. Tiny, deliberate gaps built into the interface, whether or not anyone intended it that way. Your thumb isn't weak. It's responding exactly the way 100,000 years of evolution designed it to respond, inside an environment that delivers unpredictable, information-shaped stimuli every few seconds, all day, every day. So what do you do with this? Not guilt. Guilt doesn't work on reflexes because reflexes don't listen to reasoning. What actually works is making the gap visible. The next time your hand reaches for your phone with no real reason, notice the moment just before you unlock it. Notice the tiny flicker of not knowing. That's the whole mechanism, right there, happening in real time. You don't have to fight it, you just have to see it. Because once you can see the gap, you get to choose whether to close it or just let it sit there, unanswered, for a little while. You'll pick up your phone again today, probably more times than you'd guess. But maybe, just for one of those times, your hand won't move first. You will.